What's going on, guys? You're listening to the very first episode of R&B Now here on Apple Music, and I couldn't think of a better person to launch with. Right now, I'm with Kehlani on FaceTime. Her new album, It Was Good Until It Wasn't, is out today. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Little celebratory dance. You definitely love performing. There's no way that you don't love performing because I've seen you on stage and it's like a crazy passion. And I know you've been going live and really interacting with your fans, but I'm sure it's not the same as, being out there and being able to like touch and see your fans. So with the album out now, you doing all your quarantine style videos as Hyphy Williams. How do you feel like the next few weeks and months are going to be for you, as we're still sheltering in place and you want to just interact with the fans a bit more?
For me, I really want people to take away from this project, like especially during this quarantine, is that it wasn't going to come out. I decided to put the toxic video out without telling anyone. The response I got to that was, damn, if you're down to take everything into your own hands, then you can still drop your project. So me doing none of these things, barely could, even do makeup and hair, let alone do it for all these videos. Like, went and bought a computer, bought a camera, bought the programs, sat with my photographer, and directed, produced, and edited, and shot all these videos ourselves, just us two girls who have never really done that before. I think that that's the biggest just thing about this whole quarantine was that I impress myself, and that's why no matter what happens with this album, this might be my favorite project I've ever put out or done, just because of the entirety of I impressed this out of myself, and I picked up some valuable things that I'll be able to take, into the next project. So
just watching you from afar for the past few years, and not in a creepy way, obviously. I've been a fan of the music, but I've just also watched you go through so many things. Publicly, recently, even you lost a friend. We've seen you go through relationships. We've seen you become a mom. So I wonder, once you got into the zone to really record this album, what was even the starting point for you? Because you were writing a lot of the songs.
This album was so many albums before it was this one. And this kind of took its own life when the title came about and everything started to make a lot more sense. And I realized, right now in time, I'm kind of in a relationship that has put me in a space of almost processing my parents a little bit, because the relationship was very similar to my parents, interestingly enough. So I started diving into this just closer headspace with the music I was making, just on some how can I sit here and do my R&B is about love. A lot of music is about love because that's the most common theme that we all have in this life. But how can I talk about it and specifically this situation in a way that I want to be able to articulate that feeling and I think you'll hear hints of that specifically throughout the project. But once the title came along and then everything just started making more sense to me, it was easy to just pick the tracks and put it in line.
And how did the title actually come to you? Sometimes I find that could be the hardest part of thing, coming up with the actual title.
Well, I didn't come up with it. It's crazy. We had went to Canada to finish I always say our album because I with my team so heavy. It was me, my videographer, my little play brother that I co-write with, my assistant. So I went to go finish the project, and the last day we went with Boy Wonder and ended up going to Drake's house, linking up with Drake, and we're just having a life conversation, talking about the old music, talking about what we're both about to do. And then I was just talking about personal life, and I was just man, yeah, it was good until it wasn't. And he was say that shit again. And I was what? He was that's your album. And I was you might be right, because that just summed up everything. When I try to have this really long-winded explanation to you about the project, that summed it up. And he was yeah, I mean, it's real. So I think to that point, shout out to that guy for catching that one, because that would have been just something that I said otherwise.
Shout out to that guy. This project is definitely, I'd say, compared to your debut album, of course, you've released mixtapes before and after that. It's definitely a bit darker. It's a bit sexier, the whole project, right? It's just, you're growing up, you know what I mean? I think that's natural in the music. What was, were there any songs on the project that were challenging for you to write?
I think Bad News and Grieving were both kind of emotionally challenging. Bad News is kind of the story of, and this is where I realized that it felt like it reminded me of my parents. It's a story of being in a relationship with somebody and really loving somebody who is living a life that is potentially really unsafe for them. And in a way, it also kind of just reminded me of like, you know, my father passed away from, you know, a gang-related situation. And my mom always kind of relayed these same, you know, messages to me about like, you know, he was really just safe with me and I was the safe place. And, you know, I remember getting this call with the bad news and like, I just like, that's forever like ingrained. And I think that it's just something that I had to get out, but also it kind of just like, it felt oddly close to my mom. Like I felt like oddly close writing it. So I would have these little check-in moments when I was writing the song. So I think that's what complicated the song while writing it, was just having these like damn moments while I was writing it.
So you mentioned on the first one you had no features. When you dropped While We Wait, which was a great project, by the way, you definitely had some really dope collaborations on this one. So I'm wondering, how did you decide who you wanted to work with? You mentioned that you did go to work with Boy Wonder. James Blake is on this, Tory Lanez. You obviously have a lot of great relationships, and all your collaborations, they sound organic, right? Like you really have a vibe with all of these people. So who did you decide, like, how people were the perfect fit for this project?
Tory was so natural. Right after I finished the song and I finished it, I was working with producers that he always works with too. So like we had already went to like, dang, I'm not sure if we did the song and then we went to his like Chicks Tape like release party, or if it was the other way around. But either way, at the time we were like just starting to get like really, really cool. So he just knocked it out super fast. He loved it. It made sense. It was perfect. I had been listening to Chicks Tape a lot. There was that. Janae actually sent me her verse yesterday. You know, just her being quarantined, her being like doing her album and knocking that out and doing all the stuff for that. Like she was super busy. So I'm just grateful that she actually like took the time to do this. You know, she's a mom too. Like there's just like, she didn't have to, but she did. And she was like the only girl to send a verse back, which was, it was tight to me. Who else? Masego's like, I love him, dear friend. He came to the studio and I was just like, just make it spicy. Like, do whatever you want on this and then we'll just take away whatever we don't want. And we just left a bunch of it on there. He's crazy with the sax. Who's next? James Blake? No, Lucky Day. I'm trying to go in order.
Lucky's amazing. He has such a beautiful voice.
Oh my God. Lucky is like, I've been a fan for such a long time and I was like, please, like, if you're down, just like cut a verse for me. He's like, I'll pull up right now and do it. And he just pulled up to the studio and just like knocked it out. And we both loved it. And then James Blake, man, like I played a song for my publisher. She was like, yeah, you know, we also work with James Blake. And she named all these people, but she named James Blake. And I was like, wait a minute. James Blake that like got me through depression, James Blake? Like James Blake prestigious James Blake that I feel like probably won't even know I exist. Like, well, let's pray that he does. I feel like I'm in a whole nother world than James Blake. Like, he's in like that, like bow down, like genre. And I went to his house that night. And he was like, yo, your song you just dropped is my favorite shit right now. He was talking about the song, You Know What's Up. And I was like, you know my name, let alone the song I just dropped, let alone like, it's your favorite right now. Like, what? And he was so cool, so humble, so sweet. His girlfriend is so nice. Like, it was just, I left out that house and was like, this isn't real. Like, what's happening to me?
Now, becoming a mom is, you know, such a crazy life moment. I'm not a mom yet. And to me, it's something I look forward to, but also the thing I think that I'm the most terrified of in life. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, what has it been like for you? Just the experience of being a mom, period. And then also just living that moment, you know, publicly. See you dancing on Instagram with the belly and everything, all things I would never be brave enough. It really felt like we were with you on that journey.
Well, motherhood's been insane. I knew that was my time to have her, and she came because she wanted to be here. So she came quick and fast, and it was very crazy. And I didn't put out my pregnancy news because I wanted to at the time. I went to go to the dentist's office, and the secretary of the dentist's office was telling people I was pregnant. So I announced it, but even then I realized, like, I'm the type of person who really likes regular stuff. Like, I really like to go to the grocery store. I really like going to the park. I really like walking down the street. I really like real regular shit that doesn't involve me having to, like, protect some giant major secret that, like, is really not a bad thing, or is not anything that I have to hide, because nothing to be ashamed of. Is the most beautiful decision I ever made in my life. I also thought that maybe it would be nice for people to see that your life doesn't stop, and your life doesn't have to stop when you have a child, and she can do everything right along with you, and she's right here doing everything right along with me. I mean, thank God I have a village of help. But she's great. She's my executive producer. She's my partner in crime. She is the one.